Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Hello, people, and welcome to Footy Judgment. Welcome to another stream of the Irrational League. We'll talk about Chelsea, and Enzo Maresca is actually angering the fans. Chelsea fans are angry about the 2-year process. He's saying that he can't make Champions League, maybe this season, maybe next season. He can't. After all the money that was spent for Chelsea, the team is not ready to compete on all four fronts, even though they play a second fiddle team in the Conference League until this moment. So they should have been gone way more. After all the money that was spent, Arsenal with only one option up top, which is Trossard, Nwaneri, and Raheem Sterling. That's the only option. Maybe Mikel Merino will play, but Arsenal go away to Leicester. And they need to close the gap on Liverpool, who dropped points. And they said they are, as Hussam said yesterday, it's us against the world for some whatever reason. He said that, which is actually crazy that they think Liverpool are against the whole world. And but that's about it. It's a Premier League preview for tomorrow, for the day after. Finally, the Premier League is back. We're done with FA Cup. We're done with all of this talk about the FA Cup and people are out or in. We're back to the Premier League, who starts tomorrow with lunchtime kickoff, Arsenal versus Leicester.
Starts
Big
tonight.
up everybody.
Tonight, isn't it?
Chelsea and Brighton. All right. Today is the meltdown. Today is the meltdown. I'm genuinely expecting Chelsea not to win tonight for some whatever reason. I'm expecting Chelsea to get slapped tonight. Slapped. Not even by 1 goal margin. 2+ goal margin. Yes. 2+ goal margins. Look at the sign, bro. Your manager is looking like a defeatist for some whatever reason. Suddenly, he doesn't have the same chest he had when he took over the team. Oh my God! This team should be competing everywhere. We should play the highest competitions. This team should go where they belong now. Listen, guys. Let's get the likes up. If you're watching this now, hit the like button. If you're watching this on the replay, like the video before you go on and enjoy. And it's only fair to start with Chelsea since they play tonight against Brighton, who knocked you out of the cup. What did you make of the press conference, Dan?
Oh, it's awful. I just don't understand. I don't understand why he's got that mentality when he's taking the job at Chelsea. I just think the both of those don't fit together well. And I think you just said it backstage, actually, that he isn't reading the room. And I think he's doing a terrible job of that. He's not hearing and seeing where the fans are at. And I think he's misreading the situation massively. I think he thinks that in the past 2 seasons, Chelsea have been 12th and 6th. And he thinks that they are probably, I don't know, above a mid-table club, but a team that aren't ready to challenge for the Champions League yet. But I think Chelsea fans view that as a blip and something that should have been eradicated straight away. And I think Maresca's just read the situation massively wrong. I was looking at his comments throughout the season, actually, a little bit earlier. And to be honest, they've not been great the whole way through. But I think results have probably papered over the cracks, to be honest, with what he's been saying. And now they've gone against him. He's getting picked out for what he's been saying, to be honest, and a weak mentality.
It's a weak mentality because all the money that Chelsea spent, and now he's saying that we can't compete on all fronts. It's not. By the way, rivals don't need to cut Chelsea any slack. You spend the money. Yeah. You should be able. It is not. And I'm going to say this. As no one cuts Arsenal slack when they signed Havertz and they renewed Reece Nelson and Eddie Nketiah, if I'm looking from outside and I'm looking at this Chelsea, I'm like, you're the one who chose to spend the money on Gui. You're the one who chose to spend the money on Disasio, on Vega, on Dewsbury Hall. It's no one's fault, on Joao Felix. It is the club's fault, and Enzo Maresca is the guy that appears in front of us in the press conferences. So you have to speak better. It's just, Chelsea fans, but it's not his fault. Yeah, but he took over the job.
I don't agree with that notion anymore, just because I think at first it was easy to sort of make him the fall guy because of how poorly the squad had been built for the amount of money that had been spent. But there are clear and obvious issues now on and off the pitch of what Maresca's doing that I think is ultimately either him showing his frustration at people above him and he's using it as a deflection tactic, or he is just out of his depth at this level and he doesn't quite know how to handle this type of situation.
The thing is, you can't just keep having new managers come in and then when they come in, they're like, well, now it's almost like, so it resets the process. So now there's another 2 years. That 2-year process starts again. Like, and I don't feel for Maresca, to be honest, but I do at least think a lot more of the criticism needs to be aimed at the ownership, because this is about their process less than about Maresca's. Their process was,
Yeah, man.
we are breaking every spending record ever seen to fast track the process of getting back to the Champions League. Well, now, if you don't get into the Champions League this season, then that process for the ownership, not for Maresca, but for the ownership, that process has taken longer than it took Eddie Howe to get Newcastle into the Champions League, longer than it took Jurgen Klopp to get Liverpool into the Champions League, longer than it took Arteta to get Arsenal into the Champions League, longer than it took Ten Hag to get Manchester United into the Champions League. And ultimately, the managerial decisions are the owners. A lot of the purchases you've made are the owners. The decision to, throw this money in the way that you have to try and fast track that process, decision of the owners. And so, yeah, I don't feel sorry for Maresca, but ultimately you can sack Maresca, you can stay with Maresca. It's not going to make a difference if the people above.
Do you think the team, Rory, is good enough to get top 4 or 5 to get Champions League football as a squad? Do we think it's good enough? Is Maresca underperforming?
Yes, yeah, because I think Pochettino would have got top 4 with or top 5. I think Pochettino would have done it if he'd stayed. Which again, you question then why the owners got rid of him. Are there managers around the world that I think could get top 5 with this squad? Definitely. I think you'd look at the individual talent. There are definitely ways of doing it. So I think if you don't, then you've got to look at Maresca as well, especially given the position that you were in. From the position you were in, to drop away if you ultimately do drop out of the top 5, especially given that like Maresca has the record of doing that the previous season, I think that you have to look at the manager.
Yeah.
You know what I'm looking at? Go ahead.
No. I was only gonna say on top of that is I think Rory, by the way, is absolutely spot on. I think if you sack the manager, the problem doesn't change at Chelsea right now. I think maybe the manager gets a little bit more out of it, but I still don't think the squad is good enough to go and challenge for trophies. And I think maybe that's what Maresca's kind of alluding to, but to disagree and say it's not good enough for top 4 as a manager is just killing any mentality. But yeah, I think you're right that if you sack this manager, there are still huge issues at Chelsea, whether he's in or out the door.
You know when Rory was talking and Dan was talking, the only thing that came to my mind is that when I did Straight Facts with Terry and I spoke about Man United and he said about the dressing room and all the stuff that happens at Man United. The links between two on a different scale, of course, is that you can't change your ownership. You can't change all the players. The only guy that you can change with ease is the manager. And the problem is Man United have done this every 2-3 years for the last 8 years.
Yeah.
And look where they are now. Even yesterday, the reports are, as Staffy said in the background before we started the show, that the players are not happy. That's the report. Are they true? Are they not true? The reason why I believe some of these are true is that I've seen this movie before for Man United. So Man United cannot change the whole squad. They don't have the financial power to do it. I don't think Chelsea have the financial power to do that. And you can't change your ownership. So the only thing that is left to do is to sack the manager and go again with a new guy. But if you do that, you're going into the same cycle that Man United did, which is you keep changing the manager and we're not getting anywhere. Because with the amount of money that Chelsea spent and Man United spent over the past 3-4 years, they both shouldn't be here. Man United are 12th. Yes, they are way below.
Yeah.
But Chelsea, with the amount of money and the talent they attracted, they shouldn't have been in contention for top 4. They should be cementing themselves as the top 4 team, especially with how Newcastle have done, especially with how Man City have done. But here we are speaking about maybe Aston Villa will catch up to them. Maybe Bournemouth are catching up to them. So what do you do from here? Can you change the ownership?
And here's the biggest issue. I don't think by any means it's very subjective. We could sit here and say, should they have kept Pochettino? Was it the right thing to get another manager? Would they get top 4 if Pochettino was here? I don't think there's enough evidence to sit here and say any of these opinions that we would have would be the correct one. So it's very subjective. The one thing that I think we can all agree on, though, is there's a lack of consistency. Whether they wanted Poch, whether they want Maresca, or whether there could have been a third option that could have came in before Poch and Maresca. I think the one thing they're struggling with is that they decided to do this young project, but they never really knew who their guy is. And I think that's one big issue that they done. There's 2 ways to try to build a team. You build it around names, aka the players, or you build it in an image of what manager you want to bring in and what style of play that you want to do. And I feel like until now, we kind of didn't understand which approach Chelsea had, because they did some good recruitment and they did some bad. But then you look at the management. Okay, I don't like Maresca as an example. That's me personally. I don't think he's that good. In an ideal world, would you tell me should he be replaced? I'd probably say yes. However, I will look at it as it's another manager to come in after a season that's deemed not good enough. But how many managers have been chopped and changed over the last 2-3 years? I always feel with a young squad, when you chop and change managers a lot of these young players, they lack some proper development. They lose a lot of the proper development in terms of how to play within a squad. So I'm not talking about personal development. You go from different styles to different ideologies to different philosophies, and you get lost along the way. And by the time you're supposed to peak by 24, 25, 26, 27, you've become a mix and match of so many failed ideas by so many different managers with so many different personalities and style of just man management as well. And that's the thing that we're at right now. Do you keep Maresca a little bit longer until you feel like, all right, we've actually developed a lot as a team, but this is as far as he could take us. We should be 100% a contending team. So let's get rid of him now and get a better available name? Or do you just get him chopped again, just like every other manager before him? And I'm not going to lie, I don't think that's the right approach.
I disagree.
No, that's it.
I disagree.
Exactly. I said a lot.
I disagree with that last statement. I think they
know.
should chop and change coaches until it works out. I'm not about process and stuff like this.
Didn't you just criticize United for doing that?
Yeah, actually, that's a good point.
Yeah, but hold on. I criticize United where they are now, but I don't think that a Chelsea team with that much spending that happened, they should stick to a manager that is not achieving. I always said that, and I have the same for Inter. I am not about, if you spend money and get players that are ready now. Listen, for me, Caicedo's ready, Enzo's ready. Even Palmer is shown that he's ready. Sancho is supposed to be ready. And you sign these players. Tosin is ready. You keep changing the manager until it works out. Sticking with a manager might reach a point where you're just content.
But if you keep changing the manager, how many of those players that are ready are still going to be at the club by the time you find the right manager? Is Cole Palmer going to sit here through another 4 managers hoping that it might work out eventually?
It might not, but what Inter did is that we kept changing players, actually, Inter. But we were poor. Chelsea can
the same
change
manager
players.
and changed players.
No, we did
What are you
both.
saying?
We
Oh,
did
you
both.
I think Chelsea. I think Chelsea
we sacked managers after 5 games because they
I
lost.
don't think you had this type of recruitment though, Mo. And here's the thing: when I say recruitment,
Okay.
they're still being linked to future players. Even though we all sat here and agreed, listen, the squad is young, it has some good talent in it. They need some experience in some positions. An experienced center back, experienced goalkeeper, experienced striker. I don't think anyone disagreed on that.
Yeah.
But when you say let's change the manager, are they changing the recruitment approach? Because Dan can sit here, listen, he's the Chelsea expert, not me. But I listened to Dan and I listened to a lot of other Chelsea content creators, and a lot of them are criticizing the directors of football and sporting directors because they're saying the types of the approaches that they're having or the type of players that they want. A lot of them they disagree with. I mean, most recently we saw they needed a striker in January, and until deadline day, we thought Garnacho's going there, and everyone and their mother is sitting there. Is like, why are they going for Garnacho? This is not what we need. So, what's the point of changing a manager if the recruitment and the idea of the recruitment won't benefit the next manager?
That's a different issue. The recruitment, yes, I agree with you. Chelsea should stop buying young prospects. It should stop at some point. Stop.
The issue with comparing it to Inter, I think, is that a lot of Italian teams kind of have a similar approach to Inter anyway. Like, it's more difficult for Inter to drop away out of Champions League places, given that relative to other Serie A clubs, the finances that you have. I think the issue Chelsea have got is that there are so many well-run clubs now in the Premier League that still have a solid amount of financial backing. You can't really afford to keep chopping and changing until it goes good, because you just won't. Like, Inter on a bad year can still qualify for the Champions League. you can't do that in the Premier League anymore because Forest will overtake you, or Villa, or Newcastle, or Bournemouth. Like there are too many, or Brighton. Like there are too many well-run clubs.
Can I interrupt you and say that actually we were 6 seasons without Champions League football in Italy? Inter. We stayed
Right.
6 seasons outside of the Champions League until it worked.
Wasn't that
Until
down
we
to
got-
your financial issues though, Mo? With the what?
you
Okay,
weren't-
it's now hold on. It is very relative though. Yeah, our financial issue was relative to other Serie A clubs, as well. So we are competing with the same guy that is also have financial issues. It's like we're together in the Premier League. You all have money. In Italy, no one had money. You know, Juventus used to sign free agents, Dani Alves. Like it was Pogba. So it's all about the recruitment. Yes, you can be poor, but you can recruit right.
So okay, so you spent 6 years outside the Champions League, and your
Yes.
interpretation of that is we chopped and changed and chopped
Chopped
and
and
changed for 6
changed,
years
yeah.
until it worked.
Yes.
The argument could be if you'd stuck with the manager that was out. I don't know who it was, but if you stuck with the manager that was there the first year you got out of the Champions League, you might have been back in it within 2 years, not 6 years.
We might have, but the indications are we lost, for example, with Gasperini. He was sacked by like 9 games because he lost 5 of them.
Yeah, and
just
look
sacked
how
the
good
guys.
Gasperini is right now.
But
Would
look at-
Chelsea be in a better
Could you
position?
not?
if they kept
Is that
Graham
not the point
Potter?
though? Could you not argue if you'd kept Gasperini and given him a bit of time, you'd have ended up back in the Champions League?
Yeah, 'cause
I
look what he's
don't-
doing
we
with
would
that
not. I don't think we would have won the league with him. For example, we hired De Boer, and he was a failure. We
But Chelsea don't need to
Mancini.
win the league right now. They just need to
Yeah.
get back into the Champions League to start with.
Rory, Dan, I want to ask you guys a question. Yeah, what's wrong with like starting from like basically having a structure in place, like getting a manager in, then you have a long-term project with that manager. Then at least you'll get success after that. It's sort of like what Mo is saying, like sacking managers again, getting new one until you get it right. Players age. Things. I mean, like you'll have that honeymoon period, and the managers they're gonna have that. Consistency like Maresca's having now. He had the honeymoon period. Now he hasn't got that because he's not good enough and all that stuff. But why are people like even Man United? I'm putting in here. Why are people so proud like just having a project in place that could give you more success in the future? That's what I don't understand. Why does it always have to be money related with you guys? Because if you start from like having a project in place, then you'll have that long-term success, and then you could progress in the future as well. If that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Rory is pro that. Him,
I'm for that, yeah.
I think
yeah. Rory as an Arsenal fan. Yeah, but hold on.
Go on.
Rory as an Arsenal fan is pro projects. He likes a project.
I like it.
Yeah, 100%. I think Chelsea.
You
the
get
issue is-
more success, don't you, that way, Rory? Like in the future as well.
I think you get long-term consistent success by
Yeah.
doing that. I think Chelsea are the only team that have really shown that you can get success by chopping and changing constantly. Realistically, you look at where Chelsea Football Club were by the time Abramovich left, it wasn't a sustainable way of doing it. Like, it was great for the time it happened. I don't think anyone can actually do that anymore. If Abramovich tried to behave the way he did now, he'd get found out far too quickly and it wouldn't
The
work.
problem
So-
is, though, is that arguably this new ownership have been even more volatile than Roman was.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
It's
almost like they
backed
want
so
to
many
do that.
because I think we hit the nail on the head a little bit earlier. I can't remember who made the point, but I think they're just so unclear of the direction they actually wanted to go in, because I think in every single department there's at least 2 people, if not more. There's 2 owners, 3 owners pulling in a different direction. Then there's 2, 3 sporting directors. One's left now, and they're all pulling in a different direction. All the way through, the club's been pulling in a different direction to each other. I think that's the issue. If it was simple and it was one person pulling in one direction, the club would follow suit. But I think there's too many contrasting opinions that's now causing this sort of mess construction of a squad that has some players who are over 100 million and an 18-year-old striker who costs 6 million. And I think that's the issue, that there's just, it's all these puzzle pieces aren't fitting together because they're built in different images.
There needs to be, it doesn't even matter necessarily what the vision is. It's more important that everyone is aligned on that vision. So Arteta joined Arsenal. He had the vision and he convinced the club to follow that vision, which is one of the reasons that people kind of think that Arteta's had so much power at Arsenal, even at times he hasn't. He's been given trust, and so it's gone in his vision. Liverpool, they had a vision and Klopp fitted that vision, so they brought him in, the vision aligned. Newcastle, Eddie Howe, same vision, it aligned. With Chelsea, across the ownership themselves didn't seem like they had the same vision in terms of first transfer window you had, it was all about buying expensive, experienced players like Sterling and Koulibaly, and then it pivoted. And then it's never felt like the managers have a vision at all, or if they do, it certainly doesn't align with the club. So I think that, it is basically what you said. It's that kind of, you've got no idea where you're actually meant to be going. So how is anyone meant to kind of get on board with that? It's difficult. And again, I don't think chopping and changing things will particularly help that.
Are Chelsea players actually that good?
I think they're better than and the results currently show. I think we've seen earlier on in this season that there is ability there to challenge with the top teams in the league. I don't think go and win the league is realistic with the squad we've got. I think there's too many issues, but I do think the team now is good enough to get top four, because I think in a lot of games we've seen Maresca actually cause an issue or not react to something where it would have been so simple to do so. He may have got a point or 3 just by making a very small change. I think his stubbornness and his lack of ability to adapt in certain situations is starting to cause a bit of an issue. And I think it's starting to annoy Chelsea fans, because they can see that small tweaks could be the difference between a win or a loss, because the quality's there. It's as simple as Gusto's being asked to play as a 10 pretty much when he inverts, but we've seen him be last season an overlapping fullback who was arguably one of the better fullbacks in the league last season from right back. Why is Maresca so intent on not allowing him to do that job that made him what he was last season? The same can be said for Cole Palmer. The same can be said for a number of other players in this squad, that Maresca is limiting a little bit. Reece James, one of Chelsea's best players, a similar position obviously to Gusto, is being limited as a sort of centre-back now. And I just think that Maresca's system ultimately, it's similar to what we've said about Ange in months gone by. I think he's going to die on that sword of his system being the best way to go. And I genuinely don't think right now the squad picks the squad's best 11 doesn't get the best when Maresca is using his system. I've mixed my words a little bit there, but what I'm saying is I don't think Maresca's got the full backing of every player that could have been bought for him for his system.
Can I ask everyone something just now? If Maresca sacked tomorrow and Chelsea go and get Xavi Hernandez or Allegri or someone that is a winner before, do you think Chelsea will be in a better place? Say yes or no question. Yes, right? So that means my point stands. If Chelsea hire the right manager, Chelsea will be in a better place.
I think it's damage control though, Mo. I think if they hire the right manager, all it does is protect a certain amount of income by getting top 4 or 5.
I also think we make that assumption, but then that's exactly the assumption that Spurs fans made when they got Conte and Mourinho.
Yep.
But again,
mentality at different mentality.
No, it's a different mentality problem.
But it's the new ownership. I think this new ownership have a mentality similar to what United and Spurs owners have.
But if Allegri comes in and says, "I want this 28-year-old central midfielder," just an example, are the club going to go, "Yeah, you can have him for like 50 million"? Are the club going to go, "Yeah, you can have him," or are they going to go, "No, he's too old. He doesn't fit the profile"? That's what I'm saying. And for someone, if you want that real winner to come in, they're not going to accept that, I don't think. And I think that's the issue that Chelsea have got. Like you said, like that was the thing with Levy and like those Spurs managers. It wasn't like they got no money. Mourinho, Conte, it wasn't like they got no money. It was just they didn't get to spend the money the way that they wanted to.
Even
again, I think that. Even Ange. But I don't know. Time will tell.
I don't know. Like the problem is, I feel the players are going backwards. And I fear for some of the players. I feel Malo Gusto's going backwards, as Dan said.
Mo, do you think that the early season form was just momentum carried into the season from Poch?
In hindsight, now, I saw some very good stuff from Maresca, but it looked like it was found out so quickly. And to be honest with you, I now, as we discussed last time, I think now, if I'm watching it, I think he continued with Pochettino's great form at the end of the season. And now it faded away, and now he can't find solutions. As you say, he makes changes that make the team worse during the game, which is absolutely crazy if you think about it. You had a team that was third in the table in 2024, right? Now you took this team and you started very well, and now you can't even handle simple stuff like halftime talks, halftime changes. People keep saying, but if Jackson scored his chances, okay, what about the second half then?
What
so
about the
Jackson
goals that
doesn't score.
conceded? That's what I keep
Ja-
saying. There's been
like,
huge issues.
People
defensively.
tell me if Jackson scored his goals, fine. Chances are being missed. Why in the second half, Chelsea in the last 10 games have always been worse? Just go to every game that Chelsea played over the last 10 games. Normally in Egypt, we used to say that. Staffy knows that. The second half is the coach's half. Why Chelsea got worse in the second half? Against Bournemouth, against Brighton. Who else? You played the second half, you got worse.
I'll tell
Even
you
in
why,
Man United.
because we saw the same under Poch, and I'll tell you what it is. And this is when you know a manager is struggling to do his job well enough, is that the manager in the opposing dugout is making changes tactically and mentally for his squad to come out in the second half and affect the game in a way that might get them the result. I don't think Pochettino was doing that enough last season. I now don't think Maresca's doing it enough either. And I think that comes down to the type of manager that's being hired. I don't believe that they are either one are winners. And I think that's the biggest issue. I think there are managers that are a bit more hungry.
It's that. There's definitely times where he is simply being outclassed by the opposition manager. And it's also the fact that as a group of players, when it's not going their way and they're struggling to get a result, I don't look at any of those players and think, yeah, they get up for it. They galvanize each other. Like, it feels like the opposite. It's a bit like they come out for the second half. Oh, that first half didn't go the way we wanted it to. And there's no, and again,
or if they're in the lead, they're complacent actually coming out for the second half. Like Madueke's like, yeah, I'm on top of the world. I've scored a tap in, and then Maresca drags him at 60th minute, because how many times have we seen that this season? But it's true, isn't it? Like,
yeah, and I think that's that. Some of that I think probably boils down back to like what we said about the recruitment, about how many players have been brought in, how many don't get the game time they want. It's a bit of a mess.
Why when we were on top of things, right, Rory? To follow on that point, is that there was such a call for experience to prevent this issue before it got too far. And I think literally on the back of January, where nothing's been added to the squad, it's gone too far. So there's no experience come in. There's no player come in that's good enough to sort of pick that team up or add a bit of quality to it. And I think this is what Chelsea fans were some were predicting, that it might actually go wrong if experience isn't added to this team, because they're young and inexperienced and they don't understand or have the answers to those type of problems that you're suggesting, like getting themselves up in time.
And to add to what you say, and the problem is you have too many players that need that. Having Jadon Sancho from Man United, you needed a leader next to him to pick him up when people are criticizing him. I was watching yesterday TalkSports, and they had a whole segment about the players that leave Man United and what do they need, about Rashford and Sancho, and why Sancho started well, and now he has 1 assist in the last 11 games, right? It's all about the leadership. Madueke, he needed a leader next to him to tell him, you're not on top of the world. You still need to put the effort. Cole Palmer is not performing. Nicholas Jackson as well. And I think Chelsea lack that. People think it's Enzo Fernandez, right? People think it's Enzo Fernandez. Enzo Fernandez is not really, he's still young. Kind of 23 years old. What has Enzo Fernandez seen in his life to be able to lead a team when Chelsea back then had Lampard, Drogba, Essien, Makaleli, John Terry, like Peter Cech? These guys were like...
Maybe he's seen Argentinian players win a World Cup that are of that ilk. I don't know. Maybe, because he's been in a dressing room that's won something massive. But I agree with you, Mo. I actually think the only 2 players I see that have a drop of something that the Chelsea players used to have are maybe like Tosin and maybe Trevor Chalobah in this team. I just don't see anyone else. I think the last one really was Thiago Silva, and he left in the summer.
It's funny that
what's crazy that people are talking about Chalobah now, when he was someone that was demoted to, what was it, the under-21s?
No, not even.
Get rid of him in the summer.
Just a.
It was axed. It was axed.
Training squad banished.
That's what I'm saying. They just got rid of him. They didn't want him to train with the first.
Do you know what it is, Staffy? Is that I think someone like Trevor Chalobah understands what the club was prior to the owners, and I think actually I've said it before. I actually believe that the owners want to rid anything of the previous ownership so that they can then have their own approach and no one's going to question them. The problem is, and unless they are trying to do this, they can't get rid of the fans. But the only thing is that, and I believe the fans they can try.
Well,
right?
they are trying.
They can alienate them.
They're trying.
They're trying to get rid of all the old blood. I agree.
Yeah, they are, exactly, because that's who will question the direction of the club, because it's so different from what brought success.
But I don't understand. You guys are telling me that Chelsea board They are not trying to win at all.
I don't think there's enough proof to suggest that they are.
Well, you can ask yourself the question. Maresca's come out and said that top 4 isn't the priority or wasn't the expectation.
If they disagreed, they'd sack him.
Rory, he said that. He said the opposite in the beginning of the season.
Yeah,
literally the opposite.
But so he's come out and said that now. Is that him going against what the club are saying? In which case they will sack him, or has he actually had conversations with the ownership and the sporting director or whatever, where he actually feels comfortable to come out and say that? And if he does, that means that through the season, the club at every level have lowered their expectations based purely on the fact that they've started struggling and nothing else. And that is not a winning attitude in any way.
The problem is, if you look at the table now, Chelsea are actually fourth. Yeah. What are you preparing the fans for?
But everyone feels that's the false position at the moment.
But the problem is, if you are
and
fourth,
what mentality does that give the players?
Thank you so much. Exactly. Like, you're already fourth. You're going into a tough run. Why are you telling the fans to embrace for impact? Is that what you're telling them?
Yeah, basically.
Like, it's literally you're telling them this. Embrace for impact.
Lower their expectations. This isn't the same club anymore. Lower your expectations. That's what that message is saying. And the fans are saying, no, this is our club. We'll outlive you. We'll be here long after you're gone. And that's where I think these owners currently who are in a number of different clubs around the Premier League are underestimating what English football is and the heritage that it has. These clubs are centuries old now. And I think they're underestimating the power of them.
I was fooled, and I said that publicly. I was fooled by how Maresca was very well spoken in the beginning of the season, was saying all the right things, was treating the media very well, looked like a winner, looked like, bro, Rory, like, I have this thing about Italian coaches that they all know how to speak to the media, all of them. Even Di Matteo back at Chelsea used to know exactly how to answer the media.
Italian manager list is unbelievable.
And I was like, bro, even Conte knows exactly what to say to the media. The guy's not an idiot.
He knows how to get sacked.
He knows exactly what to say, bro. He knew he was going to get sacked to Spurs. That's why he had this. My point about it, what happened? Why did he change Maresca is what I'm asking myself. Why would you look like a winner in the beginning of the season, and now you look like a loser, bro. You look like a defeatist.
You're telling the people... The two answers, Mo, are either that he's realized he's out of his depth and he's like, I need to protect myself here and start saying that this team isn't good enough to get it. And he's acting as the expert, going to these sporting directors saying, look, this team's not good enough to get top 4 or 5. We're going to finish 6th this season. Or he's bought into the project where actually the message from above is start telling people in the press conference that this is a club that isn't intent on winning as its number one priority anymore.
I just think the change in Maresca is the same change that you see in every manager when it starts really well and then it starts going badly. It's the Premier League will very quickly sour about it. We saw it with Ange. Ange was the best. Oh, look at this jolly Australian fella. He's so funny. He's so great. Took a year, less than a year, for him to fall apart. We're even seeing Arne Slot. He's had smooth sailing all season. The first little hiccup, he's lost his head.
The one that hit the nail on the head is Staffy when he said the problem is even if you change the manager, someone tell me what do Chelsea owners want? What directions do you want to go to?
Exactly, because it's a multitude of issues, Mo. I feel like football recently has become so what's the word I'm looking for when you just focus on one thing?
One-dimensional.
I would say, but I mean we use that term. It's just like usually what an issue is fixed by multiple things. I don't think it's a one fix thing for Chelsea right now. I don't look at Chelsea. I'm like, you know what? They're just one issue away from being old Chelsea that wins leagues and Champions Leagues. They're really not, bro. Like, you could change the manager. You cannot guarantee me by any. There's no evidence to guarantee me that now the recruitment approach is gonna change because now they've been here for 3-4 years and they said, you know what, the first 4 years is gonna be recruiting youngsters, but then after 4 years we're gonna start going for the best players in the world who are already at that time. There's nothing to suggest that. So we can go ahead and change the manager. I don't like Maresca. I don't think Maresca is that good. I think he's overrated. I really, from the beginning, I thought, you know what, maybe he proved me wrong with the way he started the season. I just watch football. There's nothing about him that moves me. And as you said, he's such a horrible second half manager. So yes, I'm fine with you saying he should be upgraded, but I just don't think it's a one fixed thing.
As someone who doesn't want Chelsea to succeed, I hope they do change the manager again. And because I don't expect that they would go for a winner. I don't think they go for anyone that would really have the guts to stand up against them, which means they'll go for another potential project manager, which is what they've done with Potter and with Poch and with Maresca. Go and get another one of those, and we'll watch the exact same pattern happen again. And again,
I agree, Rory.
I'm happy to
I
see
think
that.
that's my biggest concern. Is there's a lot of people saying, obviously, Clearlake out and Maresca out is obviously starting. If we lose tonight, I guarantee you that'll be the strongest thing you'll hear off the back of the result. People are saying the sporting directors need to go. I don't believe that if, like Rory's saying, if there's no evidence to suggest they go and make the right decision off of the removal. Everyone knew Pochettino probably had to leave Chelsea because he wasn't doing enough, but they proved they weren't able to replace him with the right type of manager the fans expected or wanted. And they obviously went and got Maresca in, who was completely the wrong person. I think most people knew that. He surprised a lot of people early on. I think he surprised other managers early on with how he was going to play. But as soon as people figured it out, he's failed to have any other answer to the issues that have been caused by other managers for his tactics. And I genuinely think that you can sit here and call for the ownership to go, and that'll be the only way that problem finally changes. But I just don't see that happening. I think
it's useless. You guys know I actually think anyone that says Clearlake out, okay, you're just saying stuff. It's not going to happen. They signed the contract. They can't leave the club before 10 years, which is 7 years from now.
Is it more realistic that the owners learn that they're wrong? I don't know how that happens, but they do, and they change their direction. Because I don't believe they think they're wrong yet. I think that's why they'll continue in the same direction as Rory's saying. They sack Maresca, they'll go and get someone else who is another project manager or something like that. So is it realistic that they eventually find out that they're wrong and change direction, or would they sell the club if they feel like their direction?
But they can't. That's what we're saying. That's what we're saying. Then they're not allowed to. In the contract, they can't.
I don't believe they haven't. Like, I believe they're well aware of a loophole. Because they are well aware of
maybe, but based on the information that we know, Chelsea owners have to have the club until, if not I'm mistaken, what, like 10 years from the ownership, yes.
Or somebody put, I can't remember the exact thing, or a certain amount of money is invested before they can start like taking money out. And I don't believe they would have bought that club without a loophole, because if its value goes up in 8 years and they believe they're at a point to sell, there's no way they wouldn't. I just, they're here for money.
But with the club, actually, the club went backwards in terms of like value. Actually, it was released last month.
Of course, it has.
It was released, right? You know that the club's worth. Sorry, Rory. The club's worth less than what they paid. We all, guys, it was released last week.
And its revenue is down massively as well, I think.
Revenue's down. Still haven't even got a front and shirt sponsor. Like it's a car crash. But the thing is, when you talk about it, maybe they learn and change direction. The other issue is that the direction you've just gone in, a lot of the decisions that they've made, it kind of tie you to that direction for a long time. It's not like there's a lot, these players that are tied into super long contracts, young players, like, you're not really at the point now where you can go, actually, do you know what? We're going to go back to buying experienced high-level players. You can't do that now.
You have players on 8-year contract. You need to sell them.
Yeah.
And are Chelsea going to take a loss on these players? I don't think so. But listen,
it's like you've just jumped off a cliff and now you've pulled the parachute and you're like, actually, I want to be back at the top of the cliff again. So the parachute's not going upwards. You've got to go all the way back to the bottom and climb back up the mountain. And that's going to take a while.
Yeah.
Well, can we just address Prem Talks? Just obviously put it's astonishing that I can't see the plan when it's right in front of my face. If someone can show me what the plan is, then fine. Because I think football is about winning. Maybe I'm wrong. I think they view football as a business model. They don't really mind the winning, because I think in American sports there is no jeopardy. Staffy, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think the same level of jeopardy exists in American sports as it does in English football.
You get awarded for being a loser here.
Yeah, exactly. You do, right? You get first. Yeah, exactly. It's the complete opposite.
Why did you ask Staffy and not ask me? It's kind of astonishing, though.
Is Staffy? Are you
No,
American?
I'm not gonna lie. You don't strike us as someone who watches the NBA on a regular or the NFL.
No.
Like Mo, I know Mo is a football fan. Mo is an Inter Milan fan. Like, I know that. Like,
Let's be
Prem, what's
honest.
the plan? Enlighten us as to what the
Where are
plan
you
is.
from, Morgan?
'Cause It's
Houston?
not just Dan that can't see it.
The Dynamos.
yeah,
The
that's what I was
Rockets.
going to say.
Bro,
Right?
the
I don't
Texans.
think. Can any of
You
you,
don't go to
guys
Rockets
see?
games.
Can any of you guys see the plan?
No.
No, John.
No, I don't.
Thanks. Just wanted to see.
We've said
I was
this.
really that hyper
Okay,
focused.
to be honest with you, just to clarify, I thought I knew in the beginning of the season when you went to got Toastin, when you went to got Neto, when you went to got Sancho, and I thought there is a plan. When you heard Maresca and all the stuff, and I thought, oh yeah, Chelsea are going to build a project, right? But then by January, and even Vega, I'm like, by January, when you're like, okay, Disasi's out to Aston Villa, Vega's on loan, Chokamika's for sale, Nkunku, we want to sell Nkunku, fuck that, he's not working, and we're not going to buy a striker. So, okay, you literally changed from the summer to January to completely different. Because, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dan, Vega was not brought in as an investment, was brought in to be a first teamer. And so Maresca said, that's not Mo. Dewsbury Hall was brought in to the guy that would run in the midfield, be the sub, he would be used in the Premier League. He was the guy that is essential for Leicester going up. That's why you spend that money. But the problem is, and I was fooled by all the articles and all the press conferences that Maresca did. And now I'm seeing the opposite. So I changed my opinion on the Chelsea's direction. When they say, oh yeah, Vega, you go on loan, who cares? Disasi, you're out. So your club changed.
Who was that player that you bought in January? Didn't you brought in a guy in
Yeah,
January?
so the plan with him is that he obviously is going to be cover for now. I think he's going on loan to Strasbourg in the summer, and Andre Santos will come back in return. So it was a deal to keep the multi-club ownership sweet.
It was just because I remember seeing a quote from Maresca about him, and Maresca was literally like, "Yeah, he's not an important part of the club."
Yeah,
That's
basically saying he might not play.
Yeah, and I'm like, I get, we all understand that clubs do that, but imagine you've just signed for a club and the manager's just gone, yeah, he's not part of the plan.
I would have thought that they've been really clear with him that they basically can't give him to Strasbourg yet, so they basically need to wait. I think that player will be well aware, and in the absolute bonus that he gets into a starting 11 or he plays, his value goes up.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes.
Prem Talk explained that you're building for the future.
Yeah, I saw that, but it said building for the future, and hopefully we will win in the future or something like that. And we're not worrying about winning now. I mean, there's no guarantee that these players wait around for this model to eventually click and work. And I think that's the issue: is that you have to be progressing. And right now, Chelsea aren't progressing on last season. And I think Rory said it a little bit earlier, is that every time we bring in a new manager, it shouldn't be resetting the whole progress that was made under the previous one. It should be continuing on. And that's what I said, is that if you sack Poch, it's because you intend to improve on what he's already done. I don't feel like Maresca right now is currently doing that. That's why I said fifth at the beginning of the season, because it was a minimum expectation for improvement. And they must have believed he was a better manager than what they already had.
Last question, but people, hit that like button. Over 450 in the house. We're only on 100 likes. So hit that like button. Let's get to 200 likes live at least, people. Come on. All these guys' channels are in the description as well. Rory Talks Football, Staffy TV, Dan, and Fozi's channel as well, along with Tom Little. One last question about Chelsea, which is short answers, if you guys can. If Maresca makes Champions League football, does that change your view?
No.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think he's good enough to be honest, guys.
All right, then.
Maresca,
All right,
bro. Let's move on.
Okay, Maresca out. Moving on. The title race, Arsenal, Liverpool. Liverpool dropped points. A lot of Liverpool fans are like, yeah, we'll win the league, but we have to be worried about Arsenal and this and that. Then the run, they play City away, they play Aston Villa away. Can Arsenal, if they close the gap to 4 points within the next 4 games, do something this season, Rory? You can. You still have the hope.
If we close the
Okay.
gap within 4 games, that would mean that we managed to close the gap and we'd have got Forest away and United away out of the way.
Okay.
Then at that point, 100%.
But you know what? That is the whole point, is that I am so comfortable to say Liverpool will win the league. However, things can change. Liverpool are going to go to City. I'm not expecting Liverpool to win away at City, to be honest. I'm not.
True.
Aston Villa away.
I'll be honest with you, I think we messed up with the Everton game. I would have obviously took the win in the Everton game and go and draw with Man City. That's what I would have done. But now we have to beat City.
I think that Everton game was a big hit, you know? I think Arne Slot targeted that Everton game. I think he rested the entire squad against Plymouth. He looked at that game and he looked at it and he thought, you win that, you go 9 points clear on paper, in reality, ahead of Arsenal. You target that game and then you kick on. I think drawing that game in the final minute, I think that was probably why, as much as the decisions he was maybe a bit angry about, I think he was just as much angry at the fact that he'd got full
let the
strength.
emotional side get a hold of us in that game, in my opinion, Rory. I think the way our behavior is those are the kind of things that actually loses you titles when you behave like that at the end of the game. I would have just kept quiet and just walked away. That's what I would have done. But this game was always going to be difficult. No matter, remember, it was rescheduled for that day. I mean, we meant to play it before, and now, like I said in the beginning when we discussed this, we have to beat City in order for us to win this league now. You know what I mean? Because we can't drop 2 more points. We have to. It's
so dramatic. It's unbelievable.
I looked at the fixtures. It ain't going to be easy, bro. It ain't going to be easy. You know what I mean, like I said to you in the previous stream, second half of the season is a difficult time of the season. It's not going to be teams are going to we play end-to-end kind of football. Everybody's going to be cautious, and it's going to be, we have to do something to win these games consistently, if you know what I mean. And I don't think even this season we've won 3 games in a row. I can't remember under this manager we've won 3 games in a row either. So drop points is to be expected around this time. That's what worries me. You know what I mean? This is why I said that Everton game was an important game for us to win. And now, in my opinion, we have to beat City in that game.
No, but you're assuming that Arsenal win every game.
I'm not concentrating on Arsenal. I mean, I'm more looking at me at the moment. What that can go wrong with my games. But yeah, listen, yes, Arsenal might drop points, but so can Liverpool. But the thing that's going to scare me is if we don't pick up.
No, but do you think that Arsenal will win the games to close the gap?
What's the next game? I don't even know the next game.
Our next 2 we should win. It's Leicester away and West Ham at home. But then we've got Forest away and then United away and then Chelsea at home.
So I'm looking at the Villa game. I think we'll beat Wolves. The Villa game and Man City game, that's going to be 2 difficult away games, in my opinion. So that's a strong possibility of dropping points in those games as well. So, if you guys win your games and we draw or lose our games, you're going to catch up, aren't you? So, this is what I'm saying, guys. This is a pitiful part of the season. We have to get these wins on the board. And that Everton game, I think, distracted a lot of things. I mean, from 9 points to 7 points, there's going to be 4 points.
But you were never 9 points. You were never 9 points.
We should have had 9 points. I mean, that's what I'm saying. If we don't have that on board, it's going to be difficult, mate. You're talking about there's about 5 games to go. How many games to go now? 14, right? Something like that, guys.
14, yes.
Yeah. So that's a lot of games, bro. That's a lot of games. Things can go wrong, and that's what worries me. I'm really.
What is more likely? Things to go wrong for Liverpool or things to go wrong for Arsenal, who don't have any of their starting forwards? Which one is more likely?
For all you know, the Arsenal team could pull together and do something. I mean,
and why you're assuming that Liverpool will not pull together them?
Because we've got difficult away games. That's how I'm trying to say. The next 2 is going to be difficult away games. And I said we have to win them in order for us to be more comfortable on the way to the title.
Which game is harder, Aston Villa away or Forest away?
We already played Forest already. We drew them.
Well, let's okay. You both are Liverpool and Arsenal fans. Dan and Staffy, which game is harder, Forest away or Villa away?
I think
Forest away at this moment.
I think Forest away. I honestly think that ground, away from on the pitch, when that starts rocking, that is one of the loudest grounds I've been to in the Prem.
Yeah, and at the moment, Villa, I don't think have a single fit centre back other than Disassi, and they've got no Ollie Watkins and no Duran. So you're hitting them.
Is Ollie Watkins injured?
Yes, he has groin injury.
I don't know that.
Ooh, that's a few
Yeah.
games there.
Yeah.
So,
So for me, if you're asking me who's more likely to drop points, man, when was a lot like Arsenal won against Man? Are you expecting you to go to Old Trafford and win, Rory?
oh yeah, we
Oh.
could turn up there with the fucking academy and beat them up. But it's Forest away that I'm worried about. Chelsea at home, I'm still worried about. Newcastle at home is the
Rory,
other
really?
one. Newcastle at home.
Chelsea at home. You're worried about Chelsea at home more than Man United away?
You won 5-0 last season.
Yeah.
5-1, 5-0.
I
think
disagree
you'll be
with you,
fine.
Rory. To be honest, logically speaking, I disagree with you. I
No
believe that
problem.
Man United away under Amrim, big teams, they have the adrenaline rush that just goes against. Like for every time Man United play against a big team, they have this thing. They play against Palace, they play against Fulham. Yes, no, you know that these players are complacent.
The
And they don't play.
one good thing I think Arsenal have now is that we don't have much pressure. I don't think. I think there's now such an expectation that Arsenal can't put up a title fight with the
Yes.
players that we've got
Yeah.
missing. That there's that pressure, and that was the thing that gave me a glimmer of hope from that Everton game. Was I really didn't expect Liverpool to show that much emotion, to kind of appear to be under pressure, because like someone in the chat said, you went from 6 points ahead to 7 points ahead. 7 points ahead against a team that has none of their 4 best attackers fit. And so you should be quite confident, but I was surprised by the reaction, and I think that maybe
I
shows
think
there's
that
a little
reaction
bit of
was
pressure
because it
there.
was a derby and Goodison Park and the last minute goal.
I think it was because they really didn't create much in that game, and they dropped points, and I think they're feeling the pressure.
Does any Dan and
My
Staffy
opinion.
have any say in this title race thing? You guys think that Arsenal can catch Liverpool as these guys too? Bro, hold on. We have a side
just wanna
here
correct-
that I think. Go ahead.
I just
Go
wanted
ahead,
to
Rory.
correct someone in the chat's trying to tell me that the last time we won at Old Trafford was 2007. We literally
It was
won that
last
last
year.
season in May.
Yes, we said that as well.
In
Crazy.
terms of do I think Arsenal can catch Liverpool? I actually think with the injuries now, I think the answer is no. Do I think Arsenal still have a chance of winning the Premier League? Potentially. And I only think that happens is because of a Liverpool fall off.
Come on.
So I don't think there's a catching job going on here. I think it would be Liverpool.
The Raheem
Like,
Sterling remontada. No one's ready
Sure.
for it.
Him at false 9, obviously a few seasons ago now, was so good. Was so good.
Was that real or was that a joke? I think Dan.
You
didn't
know,
even hear that.
in his youth days, Calafiori played as a striker actually as well.
You know what? His finishing is decent enough for me to believe that.
Yeah,
Some of the
aerial
goals he's
ability.
scored for you this season have been very good.
Bro, I heard you guys are playing Marino like his Fellaini.
But yeah, possibly. You know,
I've heard
Mikel
news.
Marino. Mikel Marino has more non-penalty expected goals per 90 minutes than any other midfielder in the Premier League this season. More than Cole Palmer. He's ready.
Okay.
He's ready.
That is outrageous. By
We've
the
still
way.
got
How's
Declan
that
Rice, Declan Rice and Gabriel. So all we actually need Sterling to do down that left-hand side is win corners.
Win
That's
corners.
another threat. I'll tell you,
Here's the
we've
thing.
still got our full strength back 4, and Ben White's coming back, and a full
Yeah, I
strength
saw that.
midfield.
That's
If
really
we can
big,
just-
isn't it, Ben White?
If we
coming
can
back,
just
I think.
stop the opponent scoring and now get a corner goal or a whatever, Raheem Sterling can win a penalty. We can shithouse our way to some results that I don't think people would expect us to get. And if we can hang in there
You
for
know
a
what
bit,
the issue is? What game week are we in right now? 20 what?
25.
24.
25 starts
We're about to
tomorrow.
hit 25. Yeah.
Next
So
game.
so you need to shit house
14 games.
in a row.
Quite a lot of
30
games.
games,
Yeah.
No,
Like,
no,
you
no.
understand
Actually,
No,
Staffy,
because after the
5 games.
international break,
5 games. You
yeah,
need to
after
shit
the
house
international
5
break,
games.
we should have Saka and Martinelli back. So it's
Why
really,
5, Mo? Because Liverpool dropped points. Is that what you said?
No, because after the 5th game from now, the international break hits.
Yeah, we've got 5
Oh,
Premier League
true.
games until the international break at the end of March, which theoretically after
I
that,
don't
Saka and
expect Saka
Martinelli
to
are back.
come back and just hit form right away. It's
Nah.
he's been out for a while and it's a serious injury, so I will give him some grace time. But okay, let's not say 13. You're talking about at least the next 8 games. That's a
Yeah.
lot of games that you
Yeah.
need to win in that way.
How many
And
points
you,
are you on, Rory?
and you know well, Rory, even if
50, I
you
think.
let's say in some of these games, Rory, even if you win in the style that you described and you win it last minute, you understand the outbreak you're gonna hear from your fan base. You do understand that. That being the approach for the foreseeable future, bro, it will be chaos. Like I'm just gonna be here sitting here and just watching Arsenal content every weekend. to just enjoy the meltdown. So
Wait,
it
why is
could
there
work
gonna
that
be a
way.
meltdown?
I'm
Why
not
would be a
dismissing it.
meltdown? I'm sorry. I'm
You
confused.
know why, bro? They win and they don't score like 2-3 goals and they shithouse a win, and people just go and lose their shit. Oh,
No, but,
how are we
I'm
playing
sorry.
this
If
style
we're
of
winning,
football after all
if
these
we're
years?
winning games without any of our 4 best attackers, anyone that sits there after a game and complains about it will just expose themselves.
No,
as
but
being
it will happen, Rory. It's not
they
me.
are
I'm
anyway.
just telling you what's gonna
But
happen.
no
It's not
one
my
will hear
fault.
Staffy, but no one will hear it.
But
If
every
Arsenal
A
win-
lot
person,
of people will hear it. Of course they will.
No.
they'll hear it, but they won't acknowledge it. They'll just go, "Oh yeah,
no.
shock, that person's being negative
Well,
again. Who saw that coming?"
You
Staffy,
It's
know,
always the same.
you
They
know
have no
Arsenal fans
striker
will
and no
stop.
forward, Staffy. If they fucking win the next
Well,
5
you
games
think
with
people
one
sit here
corner,
and they
1
use
nil,
logic on YouTube
who
anymore?
cares? Let me tell you something. Look, I'm gonna ask you straight. If Arsenal win the next 5 games, each game 1-0 with corner every game, would you praise him or would you not praise him?
That's a great question. But you know why this question is irrelevant? Because it wasn't about
It is
my
fucking
opinion.
relevant because he can
No,
do
no,
it.
no, it's not, because I am not the people that I'm describing that when Arsenal win that way will sit there and complain.
But
Why
the
would they
people
know
you're-
it's going to be
complain?
the same.
Why
But-
would they
but-
complain?
the Staffy,
Because they're
people
going to be
you're-
complaining about the fact that this
Yeah,
is what
but-
they have to resort to.
but the
because of the
people
lack of
you're
recruitment,
describing, the people you're describing are a tiny minority of people whose life is social media and whose main viewers are not Arsenal fans. There is not a single Arsenal fan that I would see at the Emirates. If I turn up at the Emirates for the next game and I ask any Arsenal fan on the ground, would you take 5 1-0 wins in the next 5 games, scoring from corners? And they go, well, not if the football's not good enough. Not if the football's not good enough, I'll tear up
We
my
watch
season ticket."
AFTV. I don't want to sit here and name people, but come on, you know that. By the way,
Yes,
this is not
I
me
do
saying,
know
because
that.
I'm seeing the chat right now is thinking that
Even
I'm saying
AFTV,
that's not good.
I don't even think
If you guys
AFTV
win 1-0
people-
every game until the end of the season, that is good. That is a success. From
Who
where you
gives
are
a
right
fuck?
now,
we literally
that's what I'm
grew up.
saying, but that's what I'm
We
saying. bro, it's
literally
not my
grew up
opinion.
chanting 1-0 to the Arsenal. It's in our blood to do that. I would almost enjoy a title more if we shithoused 1-0 victories every game until the end of the season. It would
You
be,
imagine
it
if we
would
won
be
the league?
more fun.
Goals
It'd be
from corners
hilarious.
and
Yeah.
literally
If
1-0
Gabriel
at
ended the season our
Unreal.
top scorer in a title-winning season, it'd be elite.
It would
I'd
be
love it.
historical. I think it would be historical.
It would be.
Hmm.
It would be.
It would be historical.
Yeah. Gabriel
Bro,
Ballon d'Or.
at this moment, if Arsenal win the games one way, dark arse, not dark arse, I don't give a fuck. They have no
Mourinho
forward.
did it. Mourinho's done that everywhere he's been to win titles.
Like, I
Gets to
don't care,
January,
bro.
lock in, win 1-0, see the game out, onto the
So
next
what?
game.
So so I know staff is not mean. So the question is, do people expect Arsenal to play good football without Saka, Havertz?
Yes,
Martinelli-
people will expect that.
No, I
That is
don't know.
exactly
I
my
don't.
point.
No. Wait,
That is
why?
exactly my point.
No,
That
they
is
won't.
exactly my
Because
point,
they've had more players available at the beginning of the season, and Arteta was still being overly pragmatic. So I don't think
You're-
they will.
You're
Yeah, but
conflating. You're
I agree
conflating.
with you.
No, but you're conflating what people will actually expect if they sit there and actually think, "Do I expect Arsenal to play brilliant football with their 4 best attacking players out?" And then people that will sit in front of a camera and say, "I think Arsenal should be playing brilliant. This isn't good enough football." There's a difference between what they think and what they tell people they think. And you're conflating.
Can I tell you guys something? Actually, I actually think that the more Arsenal win games 1-0, the more pressure Liverpool will feel.
Yeah, they'll start going, "Oh,
If Arsenal start winning games 1-0, Liverpool fans will think, okay, they're fucking winning games when they have all the injuries. I think when the injuries come back, they're going to win every game. That's what people will think. And it will add more pressure to Liverpool. I believe so. And I believe it adds flavor to the title.
this is
like I
going
said,
to
there's a lot
age
of
so
influence.
badly when we lose 1-0 to Leicester tomorrow." But
Absolutely.
until
I was
then-
about to fucking say
But-
this,
but
Ronnie.
until-
Wallahi.
but
Wallahi, I was about to say.
But until then, we can live this dream.
Even
Well,
if you
if I-
lose to Leicester tomorrow, you can still
No.
probably still win the league.
No, if we lose to
No.
Leicester
No
tomorrow,
way
I
you
think we
lose
all.
to
How
If we
many
lose
points?
tomorrow,
If you, I think you could probably. I was trying to work this out. I don't know, but maybe you could drop like 7 points tops till the end of the season to have a chance.
yeah,
Otherwise,
but
I
that would
just don't think the
include
points tally would.
Yeah, but we definitely have to win at Anfield at that point. which is going to be tough, even if
Yeah.
we're fully fit.
I
So-
don't think people understand. I'm just going to answer you for the last time, my man. I want Mohamed Salah to win the Premier League and the Champions League if Inter don't win it for one reason, and everyone knows that. Because I will sit all summer, have conversations about him being the greatest ever player in the Premier League. Right? I want Liverpool. However, and I'm going to repeat this again, and I said that in the beginning of the season, the reason why I didn't want City to win was it's boring. If Arsenal lose fucking to Leicester tomorrow and Liverpool win 2-2, we're not going to talk about the title race. We're going to switch into top 4 race. And that's not fun. We want both to be happening so we can have a conversation. We are content creators. That's our job, my friend. And if you don't understand it, it is up to you. This is why I want Arsenal to win games and maybe close the gap with Liverpool. At least we can talk about it. It is very simple. However, let me just say something here before doing the man from Uncle, big up for the super chat. Actually, it's the first super chat on the stream, actually, which is great. Thank you so much. Staffy, Graph, no one cares about what Lee Gunner thinks.
First of all, I did not mention Lee Gunner. You mentioned Lee Gunner. And to sit here and say, by the way, I mean, since you want to say that no one cares for Lee Gunner, that is a lie, because Lee Gunner has a big following, and he sits on a side in this fan base that is humongous, and they're very critical. And yes, he might be one of the people that will do what I'm saying. Whether he does or not, it's not up to me. But if you want to sit here and pretend that if Arsenal win every game 1-0 with a corner until the end of the season, the way Rory described it, and there will be 0 fans that don't like it, and you think I am waffling, brother, seek help.
All right. I want to ask a question. Yesterday, we were speaking to Jess, me and Hussam, and I asked a question about what's more disastrous for Arsenal. Okay, we know that if Arsenal finish outside of the top 5, it's a disaster season, of course. But what is the threshold in terms of like this is a bad season for Arsenal? If Arsenal finishes 4th, 3rd, 5th, I'm not going to talk about not making Champions League because I believe Arsenal will make Champions League for sure. But there are voices now that are saying that Arsenal can finish 4th because of the injuries, can finish 4th or 5th. Does anybody concur that that can happen to Arsenal?
They could. But I just don't even think that would end up being... I think we're at the point now, because of the injuries, where it would be like even if we do end up 4th or 5th, like it is what it is. Like, I don't think it would be. It would be considered a very bad season from what we expected at the start of it. But from the point we're at now, it would just be like whatever.
Rory,
Like,
can you go?
because it doesn't. Realistically, does it make that much difference if we finish second or we finish 4th?
Yes. But Sam was speaking yesterday with Wolfie and Ash and LB, and they were saying that it doesn't matter for Arsenal. I actually think it matters a lot.
Really?
A
Mike?
lot. Yes. Okay. For Chelsea, Newcastle, Nottingham Forest, City, Bournemouth, it doesn't matter if you finish 2nd or 5th. It doesn't matter. The only club that matters is Arsenal because of where the club is now. If you finish behind Forest, for example, and City from this point on, I believe it will have some consequences to it. And the consequences will be such as people will start actually, some of the fans that are even like Arteta and the project, and they have this thing about progression, will start questioning the methods and start questioning things that happen at the club and the progression that the club did.
Do you not think, unless the results are purely on Arteta, right, till the end of the season, I think the Arsenal fans, I think they're going to turn against the board for not.
You already turned
them
against the board.
Yeah, so I think that's the only damage that can happen here is that they'll just question the project more because ultimately recruitment should have been better. That even with this amount of maybe not this amount of injuries, but with some injuries, they still had relevant backup, right? Like there should have been another number 9 instead of just Jesus and potentially Havertz. There should have been one more because
I don't understand how you guys don't
injury-prone.
see that. I don't see how you guys don't think
Because
that
I just don't think it's on Arteta now, unless it's drastically on Arteta and he's making obvious mistakes that are costing his team.
I'm not
points.
only talking about Arteta, the team as a whole, Arsenal as an institution,
But
the
isn't,
people that
isn't
are
it
back in the
Arteta
project.
and the board's project? That's what it is. No, it's art. This team has been built in the image of Arteta, like Staffy
Yes.
was saying earlier.
Yes.
So unless Arteta absolutely messes it up himself, actually the fans will go, do you know what? We've got a manager that was moving in the right direction, but as a board, you haven't supported him enough, and he wasn't able to deal with the injury crisis that we landed ourselves in on the back end of January.
I actually say that a lot of people now are saying it's that the injuries are his fault because you overplayed the players. So these
Yes,
narratives
but
are already
then
running.
Has he been backed
Mhm.
enough to, like, he hasn't been given, in my opinion, someone that was capable of doing an adequate job if Saka needed a rest. Hasn't been given an adequate striker to help Kai Havertz's load.
I don't know
in
the ins
in
and
last
outs,
year and a
right?
half.
I don't know the ins and outs, but the word around on the street is that Arteta is the reason why Arsenal don't have a backup for Saka. It is not the board. He's the one who renewed Reece Nelson. He's the one who has Havertz at the current moment. That's the word. That's not me. Rory can correct me if I'm wrong. That is the word. That it's his fault.
I
It's not-
don't think it's. This is the thing when we talked about like club and manager all having the same vision. I don't think it's just on Arteta or it's just on the sporting director, whether that be Edu or now Jason Ato, or just. I think they've come to decisions as a club. So it may have been, okay, Arteta's not going to get the exact player that he wants, or even close to the exact player he wants. So he turns around and says, okay, well, I'd rather renew Reece Nelson at this point and then wait to get the one that I want. And it's like, you know, I think there's a number of things. I also think when it comes to the injuries, there's a number of things. I think Arteta could be more careful with certain players. I think when he comes out and says, you know, Kai Havertz is this, that, and the other and can carry the load and all of that stuff, and a week later he ruptures his hamstring, you know, I think there's an element of question marks there. But overall, I don't think anyone can look at it and go, well, this is all Arteta's fault. And I don't think they would. I think a large amount of bad luck has hampered.
There are people that are trying to put it all on him because he was backed and the money spent and all this stuff. But that's just
Not even that
different.
much money.
Yeah, that's what I think as well. I think he's been backed, but not to the full extent that you can have that argument. It's
This
not
is
like
the thing. Sorry, go on, finish.
I just think there's still a little bit more money that needed to be spent on that squad. I feel like I look at Arsenal's team and I don't see that much wasted money. Correct me if
What?
I'm wrong, but I don't really.
Have you seen that? I can say that Lokonga, Fabio Vieira, Tavares.
Okay, that
If you're-
season where they
if you're-
spent, okay,
a lot of
we
people
spoke about
actually-
that a few months ago because I asked Rory
Yes,
about
yeah.
that. But
Yeah.
maybe that's what I think.
Pepe is
130
not Arteta's son.
130 million, isn't it? That summer you spent, and it was like Odegaard. Did it contain Odegaard and Tomiyasu or not?
Was that White, Odegaard, Tomiyasu?
Yeah, I think it was. Like there was some players that haven't worked out, but when you actually break down that cost, it's probably max 100 million on wasted players, which actually as a hit ratio isn't that bad.
lot-
Chelsea's
No, it's not.
Chelsea's currently $1 billion, so Arsenal aren't
Yeah.
doing too bad if they only
This is
waste
the thing.
100 million
Like,
already.
and even Nuno Tavares will leave in the summer and we'll have made our money back
Is
on
he
him.
still on
between-
loan?
Yeah, and between
Oh,
the two
he's
loan
definitely
fees,
gone up in value.
Yeah, between the two loan fees,
Yeah.
the problem is we'd already pre-agreed a buy option, so we won't get actually probably as much money as he
Right,
would be on the
okay,
market. But that buy option combined with the loan fees we've got for him mean we've not lost money on him. Sambi Lokonga, we probably won't lose much money on in the end because there's a buy option in his contract, loan deal. Like a lot of that money's not even been wasted. But the problem is, people say, "Well, Arteta spent this relative to like Ten Hag spent this or Ange spent this." But if you actually go, Arteta spent this whilst each of these clubs in the same time spent this, then actually we've spent less than Spurs, less than Chelsea, less than United, less than City, and slightly more than Liverpool under Arteta in the same time frame. Just because those other clubs decided to sack their managers, like that's not Arteta's fault or problem. And so relative to those clubs, we're outperforming them having spent less and probably had a worse starting squad in the first place. I think expecting any manager to nail every single possible signing is just unrealistic.
It just doesn't happen in football. There are so many teams that have a way worse hit ratio when it comes to that. At the end of the day, if Arsenal, the whole project and the whole Arteta method and ideology, it has to result in winning the Premier League. It has to, and I think it will happen. But people need to be careful about throwing their toys out the pram, because Arsenal are moving in the right direction, even if they fail to finish second this season. I still think the curve and the traction that they're on and the trajectory that they're on, is definitely upwards and heading towards winning the Premier League. I still think this squad's probably got another 4 or 5 years. I know that's a long time, by the way, and if it takes 10 years,
But the thing is, Dan, players can change their mind in the next few years, can't they?
Yes, but so the difference is, right, if we were making an argument about Chelsea, there's if you're finishing that far off, there's moves you can have that are better, that get you close to winning the trophies. If you're at Arsenal, currently in England right now, you could probably go to Liverpool or City to give yourself slightly better odds, but they're minimal, and those clubs probably aren't willing to part with the money it might cost to make that transfer happen, because Arsenal probably wouldn't want to sell their better players to a direct Premier League rival, because I don't think they're in that much of a drastic need for profit. It only really would probably mean that 1 or 2 of their players may move abroad to somewhere else, or some players eventually their career it won't align time-wise with where their peak of form hits, or their ages and things like that. Someone like Partey might miss out when in theory it could have happened for him winning the league. But as a whole, and as the core group of players that they've got there, Saka's got years, Dek's got years, Havertz has got years, Martin Odegaard's got years. He's way younger than everyone thinks. Gabriel, Saliba, they've got a good few years still. Ben White's still got a lot of time. Raya's got a lot of time. They've still got enough time that it might eventually happen. I kind of liken it to Chelsea trying to win the Champions League. It took right till probably the end of those players' peaks in 2012 for them to finally cross the line and do it. But it took all of that experience to learn how. They probably got closer years gone by when they lost to like Manchester United and had other semi-finals that were really close. But ultimately, I think they will get there in the end. It's just whether or not, as a fan base,
Patience,
you deem that it took too long.
Yeah,
that's what I think will happen.
We actually switched from saying that Arsenal must win to like they're gonna win eventually, which is actually
no, wait, they're two different things. This season, Arsenal, all Arteta has to do this season is make sure that it isn't on him, and that his Arsenal team, without the injuries, would have been in a position to get really close to this title again.
I hear you, and I think with City, I think Arsenal will be there and thereabout in the next year. My whole worry is that if Saliba goes, for example.
Yeah, that would be big. That would be big.
That would be big.
Then they have to protect that asset and say, look, we know, I mean, Real Madrid is incredibly hard for a player to turn down, but they have to say, look, this is our project. We're willing to add this into the squad to convince you to stay.
We spoke about it. I don't want to speak about it again. I still believe that if Arsenal go and get Cisco in the summer, that might not be enough to take them over the line, especially if Liverpool get someone better. And they renew Salah and Van Dijk, and they keep Arne Slot, and they get him. They do the rebuild that they're talking about. I don't think Arsenal will be the favourites. I will call Liverpool favourites, especially if they win the league.
If you were in Saliba's position and your team was like Arsenal where they've been, and all that come in the summer was Sesko, and it was like deadline day, you're gone. 100%.
And there is Real Madrid coming in knocking. Okay, listen. If there was Atletico Madrid or was Bayern Munich, yes, I would stay at Arsenal. But if Real Madrid come and make me one of the highest paid defenders in the world, they're paying an astronomical fee, and I see Arsenal looking, they're getting Cisco only, I'm out, broski.
Yeah. There has to be more intent from Arsenal than just Sesko alone, I think.
And I said that, and I know Arsenal fans don't like it, but I'll have the same for my club, for any player, for any club and any player. If the club is not serious, why would the players that didn't go through the ranks in the academies, that they have no affiliation with the club, stay? Especially if they're offered the Real Madrid job, which is one of the biggest jobs in the world, to be a defender for Real Madrid, to play for the biggest club in the world. I'm out. And that goes for any player, even at Liverpool, by the way. If a player at Liverpool, and they see the club is not serious, and Real Madrid come knocking, that player might go.
They'll be gone, mate.
That wouldn't happen at Liverpool, would it?
It would.
Really? What, a homegrown Scouser wouldn't leave for Real Madrid? Really?
Stop that, Dan. Stop that. Don't start that, bro. Don't start that, man.
Listen, guys. This was a fantastic and a great show. We'll see tonight if Chelsea can beat Brighton or the meltdown is going to happen. Arsenal, Leicester tomorrow. They kind of close the gap on Liverpool or actually completely lose the hope. We'll see about that tomorrow. I'm expecting Arsenal win tomorrow. I can't wait to see Raheem Sterling false 9. I can't wait for that. Absolutely would be hilarious and fantastic. If he scores tomorrow, I'm making a video apologies to him. I'm apologizing to Raheem Sterling. If he scores the winner tomorrow, I'm apologizing officially to Raheem Sterling, of course. Listen, Rory Talks Football. Rory Talks Football on Instagram. Rory Talks Football on TikTok. Go and follow the guy. That's fantastic and great reels and great work, of course. Dan, with Chelsea, you go into the game.
I could be, yeah. I've been offered a ticket. It's just whether or not I can
All
convince myself
right.
we might win.
All right. We'll see. That's in. But Dan will always be there for the reactions. Will always be there for videos. Staffy TV, which is you're going to see him in 5 minutes with Lawless. That would be one of the best straight facts of the week.
I'm
On
actually
Straight
live
Facts,
later
of course.
as well.
When are you
Go
live?
on my channel later to talk about the Spurs game. So
All right. Spurs Man United. The derby of the
Yeah.
losers. Absolutely.
El
El Medico. This is El Medico. And of course, Fozi just did a video on his stream reacting to the press conference of Arne Slot. So go and check Fozi's channel. It's in the description as well. And we will see you guys tomorrow. We're out of here, people. Hit that like button, guys. 20 likes away from 200. We cannot fucking have 500 people here. We end the stream without 200 likes. Hit that like button, people. Come on, before you go. It looks like thumbs up if you don't know if you've been living under a rock. We're out of here, people.